It came out during the Martin Luther King weekend a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to see it right away. So I went to see the movie Selma. My spouse and I went to see it. And I hope that many of you have seen it. If not, I urge you to go see it. I'll try not to spoil it for those of you who have not seen it yet. But what I will say is that for me, one of the most powerful images in the movie was that of a bridge, the William Pettis Bridge. That image stuck with me. That image stuck with me as I thought about the implications and the symbolism that was in the movie. Bridges are a vital function. They serve a vital function of crossing over barriers of separation. Bridges enable us to cross rivers, channels, ravines. They enable us to cross barriers. And we can also think of bridges as metaphors for the kind of activity that we can, need to engage in to cross the barriers that separate people. Those barriers used to be legal barriers called segregation, but today they are mental and attitudinal barriers. As Christians, we are challenged to build bridges and cross bridges, just as Jesus chose to cross what had been a barrier through the forbidden territory of Samaria on his way to Galilee. And as I thought further about today, and today being Jazz Sunday at Norfield, another thought came to mind. And that is that jazz, among many things that I love about it, jazz is a music that has been one to cross the barriers in American life. Jazz people, some of them, have been the most courageous bridge crossers in America. In the days when there was absolute separation among the races in America, some of the jazz people were the people who crossed the bridges in pursuit of their artistic expression. And they did so in an era and a context of racial separation. I think about a guy like Lionel Hampton, who played with the Benny Goodman Band, and Benny Goodman, who hired him to play. They did this in the 1930s. Segregation was all over the place, lynching was rampant, but they were making a statement, crossing bridges. I think about Billie Holiday, who sang with the Artie Shaw Band, or Teddy Wilson, who played piano with Benny Goodman. Or I think about Miles Davis bringing Bill Evans on as a pianist in his group during an era when really black identity was at its peak. That's one of the reasons I like to point out that jazz can be indeed and is an art form that is inspirational on many different levels. One might even call it bridge music. Bridge music, given its hybrid constitution. You see, jazz, as blogger Eugene Holley reminds us, is the creation of African Americans in the 20th century, yes, but it combines the elements of European classical music and instruments, harmonies and songs of Africans and Afro-Caribbean people, and American rhythms and melodic structures. All that together, it is a hybrid music that bridges people and cultures and moves through the most challenging element of American life, which is race. Well, today is also a communion Sunday. And today is a day we have an opportunity to revisit the living water. To revisit the living water, because in this meal, this simple meal of bread and wine, we are reminded of Christ's presence with us, that we have that living water. in our midst, in this bread and wine, this Christ who crossed the barriers into Samaria, who crossed through all of the hatred, all of the disassociation and alienation to bring the good news of God to people. This Jesus is present in this meal, is living with us now, is the living water that sustains us, that we might know healing, that we might know reconciliation, that we might know the very transforming power of God's love. That's what this meal is about, bringing us to the table where all of God's children, no matter who they are or where they are on life's journey, are welcome to sit and eat and join in that joyful banquet with the living Christ, the living water, the one who makes us whole and brings us closest to God.